Hi there, sixth grade. Welcome to history. So today we are going to continue looking at our inquiry journal pages. We just discussed and went over pages 126 and 127 in the other video. This video will cover pages 132 and 133. Let's get started. Uh, these two pages cover lesson 4, the Jews in the Mediterranean world. And so you could go back to lesson 4 in your textbook to help you look for the answers to these questions. Again, these are just possible answers. You may not have said everything exactly the way it is worded here, but if you have the general gist, then you are right on target. So let's start with number 1, page 132. The question is, how did the Jewish-Roman wars lead to the diaspora? You may have had something like conquering Persians gave Jews permission to return to Judah, but many chose to stay in Babylon or to move to other Mediterranean lands. They formed communities in these other places. They took their faith to other countries in order to preserve it. So as they spread out, if they did not return to Judah, if they spread out and either stayed in Babylon or moved to other lands, they would form their own Jewish communities and they would continue to practice their faith in order to preserve it and to share it. Excuse me, let's move on to number 2. What role do rabbis and synagogues play in the preservation of the Jewish religion? In other words, how do rabbis and synagogues preserve or keep Jewish religion? You may have had something like synagogues are places where Jews can worship together as a community, and they replace the function of the destroyed temples. Rabbis replace the priests by leading services and providing teaching and advice for worshipers. Both give their communities around the world the resources and support so that the religion can continue to be practiced. Rabbis and synagogues preserve and keep the Jewish religion alive and being practiced because they provide support, teaching, advice, a place for the Jewish people to worship together. All right, moving on to number 3 on page 133. Using the graphic organizer, describe the different groups of Jews under the Roman rule, and then describe the ways that each group practiced their religion. Excuse me. So the first Jewish community that we wrote here was the Sadducees. They were wealthy, noble families and priests in the temple. They followed written law in the Torah and advocated cooperation with the Romans. Advocated meaning they pursued cooperation, they tried to have cooperation and tried to promote cooperation with the Jews. The second group of Jewish communities under Roman rule were the Pharisees. They were common people who focused on family and the practice of Judaism through both written and oral law. The Pharisees were the rule guys. They wanted to make sure that the rules, both written and spoken, were practiced and held to. They did not like Roman rule, but used their religion as a way to cope with it peacefully. So they felt as if they could keep to the rules and kind of do what they knew to be right and what God had taught them, that they could cope with Roman rule and they could just kind of go along their way and be peaceful about it. The Essenes were a group that left Jerusalem and stayed in the desert. They followed the written law only. They prayed to be released from Roman rule, but they didn't attack. They saw the world as enemies. And the last group were the zealots, again, coming from the word of zealous, being zealous, having passion, having excitement. They actively fought against the Romans and they lost. They saw the land of Israel as being theirs only, and they followed the written law and the oral law. All right, that's a review of pages 132 and 133 in your inquiry journal. This covers lesson 4. If you have any questions, sixth graders, please feel free to email. And until next time, I'll see you later.